There's a man on my porch in a creepy bunny costume, and he's been knocking on the door for a little over 10 minutes. Can you send someone here, please? Fast! The Bunny Man. This incident still freaks me out almost 15 years later. So when I was a senior in high school, I began babysitting for a single mother, Angela. She had 2 kids, Lauren, 12, and Ryan, 7. Now, Angela had recently divorced from her husband, but I started babysitting for their family before the separation, so I had a sideline view of the messy situation. It was very nasty. The parents were not great to each other. After the divorce was finalized, Angela came into a good deal of money and ended up buying a 2-story white brick old house in the historic neighborhood of my own town. Now, when I say this house was old, it was old. The type of old that carries a smell with it. The type you can hear in every floorboard. The type that carries so much history you can't help but feel like the memories are seeping out of the walls. The type of old that is pleasant during the day, magical even, but at night seems foreign and scary, like you're just a guest passing through a structure that will remain long after you have left. All that said, the house was old, and at night really showed its age. Everything creaked. To make matters worse, the house was the opposite of open concept. Every room was sectioned off by walls and doors. So when I was watching the kids one Friday night, which was my normal night with them, Angela always said she had dinner plans with friends, but I know she was going to a bar and getting plastered because she would always come home, leave the money on the dining room table, yell thank you in a slurred voice, and finally proceed up the incredibly squeaky stairs, all without coming into contact with me. It was around 9 p.m., and I had just gotten the kids to bed. They each had their own bedrooms, but slept in Ryan's room that had bunk beds because he hated sleeping alone due to nightmares. Usually, Lauren would stay awake and play on her tablet for a little bit before falling asleep. But Ryan, he usually passed out pretty quickly once I could finally get him to stop getting up for water or to pee or for another story. It took literally 20 to 30 minutes to get him to bed. Anyway, it's around 9 p.m. and I'm alone downstairs in the den. The actual living room didn't have a TV and was more of a sitting room. The den, of course, was closed off and had its own door, the only way in or out of that room, which I left open so I can listen upstairs for if the kids needed me or if they were sneaking out of bed. As I'm sitting on the couch, flipping through the channels, trying to find something to watch on TV to keep me occupied for the next few hours, I hear a very light knock on the front door. Now I can see the front door from where I'm sitting because it was a straight shot from the den, and the couch was back far enough that all I had to do was lean my head back. I should note here that the only lights on in the house was the upstairs hall light, the den lights, and a small lamp in the kitchen. The only light that allows me to see the front door is what is cast down the staircase. The front door did have 2 slender windows on either side of it, but they had curtains that were drawn, so apart from the solid door and 2 closed curtain windows, I couldn't see outside on the front porch. Maybe it was because the house was so old and I was used to hearing it creak all the time, or because I'm a lock freak and keep all entrances, windows, included to any place I am staying, my own home included, locked tight. I had seen way too many horror movies to ever forget to lock a door, so I didn't go and peek out of one of the windows and simply decided to ignore it, even though it definitely started my adrenaline. So I continue flipping through channels, but at this point, not really paying attention to the TV anymore. Maybe a minute passes, and I hear the knock again, but this time, it's a little louder. Loud enough that I can't pass it off as a house creak, but quiet enough that it wouldn't wake the kids. Now I have no choice but to get off the couch and peek out one of the windows, trying to be sneaky. I crouch down and look out the window from really low. That way, if someone was washing the curtains, hopefully they wouldn't see me chance a quick peek. But when I draw back the curtain, no one was there. The only things I see are an empty street illuminated by classic-looking street lamps and a very dark front yard due to the shadows cast by several large white trees. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was pretty freaked out. I'm a high school senior, babysitting 2 kids asleep in bed in a large old house that already gives me the creeps on its own. I was in the setting of the most perfect horror movie, having too much adrenaline to go back and try to watch TV, but not feeling threatened enough to call Angela or the cops. I opted for sitting on the bottom step of the staircase, right in front of the door, and playing on my phone. I checked the front door lock before going to sit down just in case. Maybe 10 seconds after I had sat down, I hear the knock again. This time, instead of being sneaky, I simply peek out the curtain at eye level, just in time to see someone run behind one of the trees in the front yard. Let me tell you, I actually let out a sigh of relief. Where I grew up, Ding Dong Ditch was a staple for teenagers, and I could handle harmless teenager pranks. Usually, to get the ditchers to stop, you turn on your front porch light. So that's what I did. I laughed a little as I walked back to the couch. I should have reasoned it was just a prank from the beginning, but as I sat on the couch, I hear yet another knock. But this time, it's even louder than the last 2. Now my anxiety has turned to annoyance. I've got 2 sleeping kids upstairs, and if this knocking persists, it could wake them up, leaving me to take the task of getting them back to bed. So up from the couch I go. I pull one of the curtains back, revealing an empty lit front porch, and proceed to flick the porch light on and off, maybe 5 or 6 times, leaving the light on after I'm done. But instead of going back to the couch, I stand there and wait with the curtain open, daring any teenager to try ringing the doorbell one more time. After a few minutes, I feel confident that I've finally gotten them to leave, so I turn the porch light off, close the curtain, and head back to the den. What greets me 5 minutes later is the loudest knocking I've ever heard. It sounded like someone was honestly trying to break the door down. At this point, I don't know what I'm feeling more, anger or fear. I rush to the front door, pull back the curtain, flip on the light, and come face to face with a person wearing a full bunny rabbit costume. Think the Easter bunny, but the costume looks 50 years old and is incredibly dirty. For maybe 20 seconds, I just stand there in utter shock. A creepy bunny costume was the last thing I expected to see. A teenager laughing his head off? Sure. An escaped convict wielding a knife? Sure. A dirty old bunny rabbit costume? Not a chance. The creepiest part, the person was standing completely still, just standing straight ahead at the front door, until the person slowly turned their masked head and looked directly at me. That is when I noticed that the mesh eyes that are usually on costumes like this to allow the person inside some vision have been completely cut out. So I'm actually looking right into the eyes of the person hiding inside. This is what triggers my fight or flight. Not because there was a creep rabbit stranger on the front porch, but because those eyes looked so empty. I felt like I might be swallowed up if I stared into them for too long. I jumped back from the window, pulled the cell phone from my back pocket and dialed 911, still keeping my eyes on the bunny man, but further away from the window.
911, please state your emergency.
There's a man on my porch in a creepy bunny costume, and he's been knocking on the door for a little over 10 minutes.
Okay, ma'am. Is he still on the porch?
Yes. He's staring at me through the window. Can you send someone here, please? Fast. I'm babysitting 2 kids.
All right. Can you give me your name and address? We will get someone en route.
How fast can they be here? Something is really off.
We have officers in a nearby area. They should be there shortly. Just stay on the phone with me until they arrive, okay?
Okay. Before either of us have a chance to say anything else, I feel a tug on my shirt, which sent a shiver down my spine. I had been so focused on the phone call and keeping an eye on the bunny man, I didn't hear the kids come down the stairs. When I spin around to look at them, the kids peer around me and see the bunny man, and both promptly let out a blood-curdling scream. This then triggers the bunny man, who begins banging wildly on the front door again. At the sight of his raging on the front door and 2 terrified kids, I keep the phone in my hand but pull it away from here and wrap the 2 kids in my arms before quickly rushing them into the den and closing the door behind us. Even through the closed den door, we can still hear the banging. Lauren and Ryan are both crying at this point and refusing to let go of my waist. Will someone get here soon? He's banging on the door again, and the kids are awake and scared.
They're only a few minutes out. Can you and the children try to find a safe place to hide?
We're in the den with the door locked. There isn't really a place to hide in here.
Okay, keep the door locked and sit tight. Officers will be there shortly. Can you still hear him outside?
Yes, it's really loud. I'm scared he is going to break the door down.
Okay, officers are a minute out. Can you describe the costume this person is wearing?
He's in a white old-looking bunny costume. It looks really dirty, and the eyes are cut out.
Are you sure this is a male?
But before I can respond, the banging at the front door stops. The banging stopped.
The banging stopped?
Yes, it's quiet.
Okay, just stay where you are. Officers are in your neighborhood.
Like we were going to move from our spot.
Ma'am, officers have arrived at the scene. Don't exit the room you're in until police announce themselves.
Don't you want me to unlock the door for them? Please don't kick it down. This isn't my house.
Ma'am, officers say the front door was wide open upon arrival. Just stay where you are. Officers will get to you shortly.
But the door was locked. I always keep the doors locked. Somehow, when the police arrived, the front door was wide open, even though I knew it was locked and had even checked after the second time Bunnyman knocked, and Bunnyman was nowhere to be seen. The police did a search of the house, which was all clear. No one was inside except the 3 of us, and they didn't find him around the outside of the house either. They said they would canvass the neighborhood, but I'm not sure if anything came of it. They did leave an officer to wait outside the house until Angela got home. I called her as soon as police got us from that room, and I was able to get off the phone with 911. I think they could see how shaken I was. I refused to babysit for anyone for a long time after that night, maybe a good solid year. And when I did start babysitting again, as it was really easy money, and by the time I started again, I was in college and needed the extra cash. I would jump anytime I heard anything outside after dark. To this day, I don't know if they ever found the bunny man, and I don't know what his intentions were. Maybe it was just to scare the life out of random people, or maybe it was something worse, but either way, that was by far the creepiest thing to have ever happened to me while babysitting, or ever.